how can people, what are other ways that people can reduce turnaround times?
I think the key is using the tools well. We want, with a lot of content, the key is for there to be set rules that we can then codify and automate to, for example, exclude content that doesn't require translation. If authoring is inconsistent, then those rules can't be applied. We can't automate those processes, and that in turn takes a lot longer and builds inefficiencies into the process. So having structures and having rules is really important.
I'd agree with that, and the reduction in turnaround time can be achieved by also reducing the amount of time spent resolving conflicts, version control issues, that sort of thing. So because the content's in a machine readable form, it makes it possible to do comparisons and to flag potential version conflicts. And at Rubric, we do this with the content that we receive. We look at what has changed in the English, so we know the scope of what we're going to be translating in the current handoff. We also look at what has changed in the translated content, and that can happen because the client needed to tweak something that we delivered previously. And because we can analyze the content in an automated way, we can pick out those changes and make sure that we update our databases with those tweaks that had to be made. So by doing these kinds of automated analyses, we can really cut down the turnaround time and reduce the number of errors.
The other area, just in terms of turnaround, is if we're able to reach the ideal of having zero touch desktop publishing and layout work and QA, then the process from delivering the translations to having the final end product should be quite quick, as opposed to a traditional method where there was time spent reworking layout, doing QA, and then readying that final version. Structured content allows for that process to be much quicker.
Yeah, and I'm interested in that as a concept of zero touch DTP. Like, what's different about my experience as the author and how long does it take from me to change some text to getting like a PDF of the product manual, for example?
When you're using structured content authoring tools, you're essentially not concerned with the layout. The layouts are normally very simple. It's essentially, for a PDF, for example, it's flowing text. You don't add page breaks or line breaks. You author the content and it will flow according to where the bits get pulled in, the different chunks and snippets of content. Similarly for online help, the content is just brought together in that format. So you create style sheets to tell it how to do that and what styles to apply to what content, but nobody actually ever then goes and looks at that final version and QAs it and checks it. You, as an author, click the button to build it, it's built, and then you use it. So there isn't really that layout, and design is a much smaller part of the process.
And how long does it take specifically with the localization step in the middle?
It'll probably take a day for the builds and to deliver the builds and for them to be ready.
Okay.
I think that's an interesting question about, from the author's perspective. When you're authoring, you can't see immediately what your content will look like when it's published. There is a build pipeline normally in between. So even if you're using Madcap Flare, which is a sort of self-contained authoring and publishing tool, you can be authoring your content, but you don't immediately see WYSIWYG what it's going to look like. You'd have to actually click a build step, and that's going to take anything from 30 seconds to several minutes, depending on how big your publication is in Flare, and it will produce a PDF output or HTML output if the destination is going to be the web. In our content management system that runs rubric.com, you have a similar delay. So you're authoring content and you can click update and save and publish, and it's going to be a couple of minutes before it turns up on the website, because it's going through this build pipeline and having all the templates and styles applied to it. Localization then is somewhere in the middle of that pipeline. And so instead of publishing out to one language, you can end up publishing out to multiple languages, but that can be, simultaneous with the English publication. So the translation turnaround is a small part in that.